Alright, what's going on here? Let's get this rocking, because this is good. Let's do this again. And let's go into the episode now. Cool. See what's happening. Alright. Not a great shot, but we'll make it work for today. Welcome, whoever's here. Hey, alright. Howdy, Mary. Morning, Kiki. Don. Finally figured out how to make this thing work and get a front way shot, I think. It's really dark though, so I want to see if I can fix that, because we don't need me spiraling like I went the other day. But I don't really spiral. My tripod is not handy, so we'll have to do without that. See what we can make happen here. And there we go. Now we know we've got a good camera. All right. The chandelier. Yeah, it's actually kind of cool. Hang on one second. Let me give you a look-see. Hang on. Yeah, it's an antler chandelier. It's kind of an interesting idea. This whole lobby is kind of cool down here. I tried to go outside, and wasn't happening. No signal. It's terrible. Terrible stuff going on signal-wise up here. But, hey, we're making it work. Hey, let's not cut my head off entirely. There we go. Oh, wow, Dom, I'm sorry to hear that, man. That's awful. Wait, are you happy about that? You're happy that you got Nickelback? Let's see here. That is nuts, man. I swallowed a marble when I was a kid, but that was less problematic. That's horrendous, dude. I'm sorry to hear that. But yeah, glad everybody's safe, dude. That's amazing. Yes. Well, yeah, and I am back to the Rush t-shirt for today. Just so we're clear, this isn't gross or anything, I'm wearing the shirt twice in a row. What was I thinking? Yeah, I just put it on for the live stream yesterday morning, so I'd have a shirt on, because I didn't have anything. I didn't wear a shirt to bed, but what am I thinking here? Those beds are really warm, so what am I thinking now? Yeah, probably go for a run today. That was my plan yesterday, but there just wasn't any time. But yeah, figured the old trusty Rush shirt was a hit yesterday, so I went for it again. But yeah, I'm really glad to hear your daughter's well, because that's no fun, man. That's insane. So they actually had to go inside and get it, or did they just like use like, was it non-invasive surgery, or did they have to go and use like one of those scopes or whatever it's called to go down and grab it? I don't know. That's just scary to think about, man. Hey, I see a beautiful lady bear up in here. That's good stuff. Forceps, yeah. There you go. That's good. That's good. Glad there was no cutting or anything. Yeah, beautiful lady. I don't know if you heard, but yeah, Dom's daughter had to get a nickel removed yesterday. Yeah, that's still creepy stuff, dude. Good night, nurse. Well, I'm glad that's done with. I'm I'm glad that everybody's safe and sound and you're back doing your thing. But gee whiz, you know, I'm having an idea come out of that. Dom, I think you need to have a T-shirt campaign going on. And I think it should just be Nickelback sucks. Just ask Dom. You know, I think that should support her recovery, and you should be. You should be happy about that. Yeah, absolutely. That's good. Oh, that was Kiki that said that. That's awesome. Yeah. I'm sorry, a few seconds behind. Your response in the chat didn't come until about 3 or 4 seconds after that. So um, that was kind of funny. Oh goodness. Sorry, I'm still waking up. I'm not there yet. In fact, guess what I'm going to do? I am going to get some coffee because I think they have some. So walk with me if you will. So I figured out how to do a front way shot. Just use my phone, but I turn it backwards. And then I can use my computer to verify that the phone shot's rocking. All right, what did we do yesterday? Okay, all right. This is hilarious. I gotta share this. This is awesome. So here's what they have for coffee here, right? They have the Chena blend, the regular. They have the Vienna Roast dark mold. They have the Colombian water processed decaffeinated, and then they have pure Alaskan hot water. That's awesome. That's a riot and a half. Everything's Alaskan up here. Mmm. You are here to have Alaskan stuff, and it is good. Mm-hmm. Oof, coffee. It's so necessary. Yeah. It's early for me anyway. It's 5:21 right now. It's ridiculous, but I do it all for you people. I want you to have this live stream to continue. How you doing this morning? Good. How are you? Doing well. Better once I get this coffee. Let's see here. We're gonna go with some hazelnut today. There we go. All right. Yes, you people, Dom. That's correct. Well, as long as you don't send an air marshal to tase me, I'm happy. I don't need any of that. Oh, that's sweet. Yeah, it was unintentional, but it worked. Let's see here. All right, I'm going to have to share at least one other fun thing. Morning, Sarnason. Morning. Very well. Let's see. Let's do something here. Got to check this out. The gift shop. It's kind of fun here. Look at all your different. Nice. That's awesome. Derby got bit by a mouse. That's funny. As I say, check out the hilarious stuff they've got in here. Coasters. No, wait, or post a coaster. Yes. Post a coasters. That's a thing. They've got pins. They've got moose mugs. Yeah. Got plenty of stuffed toys. Yeah, dude. I'm sorry you missed that. Yeah, I'm up here. I got here Sunday. So yeah, we're up here. It's a military thing. This is just their little mini gift shop and some of the cool things they had in here, hilarious things. Just cracking me up. Well, hey, sometimes I gotta make the sacrifices for my country. That's what I do. That it's my happy place, man. It's just what I do. Here, Dawn. This is for a beautiful lady bear right here. Puppies. I'm sure she'd enjoy that. Oh goodness. All right. Let's sit down over here and have some coffee. Yeah, yeah. I figured since it's got dogs in there, she'd appreciate it. All right. This is good. This is good. So, been a little busy here. Um, just getting situated. Yesterday was interesting. We sort of got an orientation of what we'd be doing for our time up here. Um, pretty interesting. Pretty interesting stuff we'll get to be involved with. But what I'm really looking forward to is during the weekend when we might actually have a chance to do a little trip over to Denali National Park. And on our way up here, I got to see some incredible things from the flight. Um, see if I've shared a couple of those in the Hangouts, but I can't even drink that yet. It's super hot. Yeah, shared a couple of things in the Hangouts from shots that I took while we were traveling. Sure. Um, but yeah, there are clearly some incredible mountain areas out here that I need to get to. Like every time I see a mountain, I'm just like, mountain, I need to get there. It needs to happen. So we're gonna make that happen. Um, Dawn told me plenty of stories about how she got out to Denali years ago, and I'm totally looking forward to doing that myself here. Um, I just keep looking outside. I can't believe that it's only 5:30 and it looks like it's about 8 o'clock out there. Oh, oh, good morning. Let's see what's going on here. Wait, I might not be around for streams for a few days. Taking off the next three. Well, good. Thank you, Kika. It's very kind. Um, yeah, we're up to 2 shirt sales, guys. It's a good thing. We need to make it to 11. We got 14 days um, to make it to 11. So otherwise they won't get made, pretty much. So um, we'll try another one down the road if this one doesn't make it. I know Kiki's t-shirt campaign got made. She made the minimum necessary to get it made, so that's cool. Um, no, no, I'm not begging you to buy them. No, it's just kind of like the same thing with anybody's streams. We put the PayPal thing out there. We put T-shirt things out there. If you just share links places, that's my biggest thing. If anybody can just like copy and paste it to, Unbearable's app, or you paste it to your Facebook if you still do that, or um, make it the link in your bio of your Instagram for the remainder of the time. No, I'm totally kidding. Um, yeah, wherever you want to. Um, I always encourage shareage of links, and feel free to throw your crazy slogans up with that, Dom, because that's my favorite bit. I love seeing. Yeah, go to people's live streams and throw that in there. Yes. Yeah, those make my day. Absolutely. Um, so yeah, feel free to share the www.bonfire.com/make-drumming-great-again/. Oh man. Uh, yeah, I would imagine it did not help you out, man. I empathize with that entirely. I know what that's like. So, you twitted me. I have a twit. I didn't even know. Let's see. Oh, I can look at the. Oh, I see. There we go. Hang on a second. That's not what I wanted to do. I did the opposite. Let's see. Send. No, not send feedback. No, 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 no. That's the apps. No. That's not what I'm trying to do. Technical issues, guys. Gotta love technical issues. Am I frozen? The live stream was. Oh, there it goes. I'm back. Let's see here. Pop-out chat. That's what I wanted. It was doing that. But what I wanted to do also was open up a window for Twitter. Um, oh, well, I might have to do that later because I don't know my login. I love that. I have no idea what my flipping login is. Let's see here. Oh, you. Oh, I gotcha. I gotcha. I understand now. I thought you meant you sent me a message over Twitter. Um, no learn. She does pretty decently. She probably spells better than I do. Yeah, I done did. I done forgot it. I no learn how to talk good either. Some days I wake up and I feel like Sloth from the Goonies. Uh-huh. Coffee done. Coffee done. That's about where I'm at. Hey, you dogs, go potty outside. That's usually how I feel. Oh. So at any rate, um, yeah. Yesterday was a little bit of a downer mood, but it was just a worthwhile thing to share. Wanted to come back and touch on, yeah, just yesterday. I'm not gonna do it again today, but talking about my buddy Ian, you know, and that was. Oh my gosh, man, you're killing me, dude. Which Owen clip did I see? Was it the one about that dude at Disney being fired? Yes, I saw both of them, in fact. And I didn't realize. See, I love this that I don't watch news almost at all. Hey, Sovereign, good morning. The anti Pico video. I'm not sure if I saw that one or not. Or Pico, yeah, I knew what you meant. Um, I saw his talking about that guy getting canned, and then like if people are mad about it, that's kind of dumb, that you might be a mindless mouthpiece, essentially. Um, like we were actually having a conversation with somebody from up around here um, that we met recently, and it was an interesting conversation about well, it touched even into that, about people that serve in positions of clergy, you know, and kind of like the process they have to go through to get to that, you know, doing it in civilian, let alone in the military, and seeing this, rising of like acceptance of or mainstream acceptance of NAMBLA folks. That's how would I put that? That's there's all kinds of different ins and outs on how people are trying to define that stuff, and different, I guess different groups would probably have to have different requirements on different organizations would have different decisions on how they're going to go forward with allowing um, who they allow to be clergy. Like it's not an it's not just a hey, I want to do this, I'm going to come on in. Like no, there's requirements, that you have to meet in order to do that. You have to be a good fit for that kind of a position. Um, some people are like it's a free for all, and some groups are like, maybe not so much, you know. Uh, Especially if the positions are going to be like family type ministry and things like that. So um, they're more particular. So it was interesting to kind of have conversation about that with people who are a little more informed on that. I'm being vague a little bit about what I'm saying, but let's see here. Going back and look at the chat. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's really disturbing too, Kiki, about the way that those were worded. Know enough to let them hear kids. Yeah, yeah. I knew what you meant there too. Yeah, yeah. I think there are some situations where you have to make. Um, you probably, if you're in that position, you probably have to make certain decisions. Your situation may limit you in all sorts of other areas where you might have to say, okay, I just can't do this now. If you were if you were an air traffic controller or you had aspirations to be that, right? And you uh, were in a horrible car accident, and became blind and had difficulty being able to speak clearly, you probably would not be able to be an air traffic controller at that point. You probably have to say, I have to stay away from that because if I tried to push and fight for that, it's quite likely that I could be less than effective and cause problems in that field. And maybe I'm jumping the gun on that. I mean, there could be technologies that make that possible for people to do it at the level that other air traffic controllers do it at, but there might not be as well. So you might have to say, okay, maybe there's a limitation in there, and having a limitation on yourself um, isn't necessarily bad. If you are able to understand where a limitation is at, and you have the courage to stand up and say, no, I'm gonna impose that limitation before somebody else has to, right? Like you have some degree of courage because it's difficult to look at yourself and admit things like that. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think of other examples in my own life where I've had to say I have certain limitations. And it's a slippery thing because you have to be able to say. Um, I think there are parts in life where we have to admit limitations in order to do better for ourselves, and that's in a much lesser degree than say someone that's struggling with pedophilia issues. Um, um, like limiting themselves to say I'm not going to be around kids. That's a pretty drastic one, but it's also pretty straightforward. It's also pretty darn simple. It's like, well, this is obvious. I need to not do it. What about just in our everyday today lives where we say, well, I'm not really good at this thing. I don't have a predisposition toward such and such, so I'm going to try to not pursue that as a career. That may not be a wise idea. um, or this activity, this pastime. I'm not really very good at that, and if I'm not good at it, I might injure or cause harm to other people. So I'm probably gonna not do that thing, even if it seems like it'd be fun. Um, it's not fun if you mess other people up. Um, or if you can get better, great, get better. If you can get help to improve, get that. Um, but yeah, be willing to say, if I'm not there yet, I'm not there yet. Let me read that. Yes, exactly, Kikya. Oh, you need an anti-pedo shirt. How about an anti-pedo, um, an anti-pedo? I was thinking mug, but then I thought maybe something else. I don't know. I'd have to see what other kind of merch is out there. An anti-pedo hat could be interesting, right? um, or anti. It's not even against pedos per se, but you could be against um, the normalization of that as a way of life. That could be worthwhile. We can. What's the old Christian phrase? Um, Love the sinner, hate the sin, kind of thing. That's worthwhile. You know, you can say, well, okay, we love those people, but we still probably have to impose some limits. Let's see here. Even like, let's see here. But whoso shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, than he would drown in the depths of the sea. We have a dude in Holly, known harbor of pedo, mm, who was a victim of pedo self-admitted, who's friends with a shared disgusting tweets with someone convicted of possession of child porn and openly jokes about children touching him. Yes, he's just your average guy. Yeah, there were cultures in the past that delved into that full bore. Ancient Greece, that was seen as necessary. And there's a book that I dug into years ago. Actually, it was more of like a class, um, but I think he made it into a book. Yeah, one of the guys that I learned a lot about ancient Hebrew from, a guy named Bradford Scott. And Brad Scott's got this book called Hebrew versus Greek Thought. Hebrew versus Greek Thinking, I think was the name of the book. And it tries to help draw a distinction historically between the ways that Greek culture would think about different things and the way that Hebrew culture would think, just the ways that they would process ideas. Sorry, just trying to adjust my angle a little bit there. Um, get back to the chat. So, yeah, call for an uprising channel. The peanut thing's far more entrenched here than people are willing to realize. Wow. No, I believe that, Mayor. Absolutely would. And it's really sad. It's like, yeah, yeah, absolutely. So one of the principal things that was going on in Grecian culture was their concept of God. They looked at um, like there's two sides to the gods in a way. There's like um, I'm trying to remember how they phrased that. Um, there's like the God that centers around like the evil desires in us, you know, um, and those base natural things, and then there's the heavenly side. There's the more spiritual side of God that says, okay, we're getting eventually you'll be dead and above all those things. So while you're here on earth, get all that earthly stuff out of you, express it, do whatever you have to do to get all that out. And at some point in some of the westernization um, of the Bible and in Christianity, one of the things that had been done a little bit was to sort of adopt some of this Grecian thinking about God and people, and think that the Old Testament God was much more of that. Get all the evil desires and the fleshly desires out of your system. I don't know if when you actually read it, if you can like read it all together in context and actually walk away with that. Um, don't know how that is, but they see it as as more of the negative bad God, because he would say, oh well, the death of entire groups of people, including children and women, that was acceptable. Of course, there's other details that accompany that, so it's not quite that simple. But then like the New Testament one, he was much more fluffy, pat him on the head, nice, nice. So it's that dichotomy again, is what they feel is being expressed there in the way that played out, the way that the scriptures were written. So, um, in Grecian culture, it was totally justified for men to teach the younger boys coming up what it was to be men and to engage in these types of pedophilistic relationships with them. Like that was just rites of passage. That was normalcy. And that's it's like it's making a resurgence, in the minds of a lot of people. Um, Probably didn't always ever die. There's probably always been a remnant of it around. Um, but it's just like, why? Why? I mean, that's no, no. How would I say this? So, preface this. Sorry, I'm getting the sleep out of my eyes. Goodness. Let me preface what I'm about to say. Um, I love gay people. I do. Um, how would I say this? Had a bunch of different friends over the years that have been part of the G and the L community, and even the B community to some degree. Occasionally, more recently, I think I've met some people that would say they're part of the T community. Um, but I, I was, without a doubt, no questions asked, certain uh, that I had zero inclinations toward um, interest in even the same sex. Like, wasn't even a question to me. There was no confusion about that ever. And I've actually tried to consider it. I've tried to think through that a little bit. Like, could I possibly? Was it possible? Um, and the more that I contemplated that, the more deeply I thought about it. I thought, well, maybe I could. Could I be conditioned toward it, in some way? I suppose conditioning is possible, but I don't think I would actually truly want that ever, right? I'm. It's almost like it's making me think of that John Money study that Crowder was talking about recently for. Um, Wait a minute, I gotta take a break and look back here. Let's see. Um, oh, you're good, brother. I can't even deal with that. I started crying after reading some of this stuff. It felt traumatic just knowing that it existed. But to myself, this is when I have gotten closest to knowing what PTSD is. Yeah, no, I figured that's what you meant. Moral relativism, yep. Don't mess with kids. Yeah, man, it's. Hey, Steve, good morning. I didn't just now seeing you in there. Let's see. Well, okay, just getting caught up with where you guys are at the chat. Oh my goodness. Now, we were talking, Steve, about, I don't know how much you've heard thus far, but I was talking about the differences in thought in relationship to the scriptures. The people who penned the scriptures down in the first place were Hebrews largely, and the way they thought was very different than the way that we Westerners tend to think. Well, when does it not take a dark turn, Dom? This is bears we're talking about here. Bears often take dark turns. um, this whole group got started by Owen Benjamin, man. I mean, I think that says it all, you know. um, so we were talking about how Hebrews tend to think more. Well, I didn't even talk about that largely, but Hebrews tend to think in terms of function rather than form, whereas the Greek mind was much more rooted to the form and appearance of things. That was really, really a huge part of things. You can see this in Hebrew about function, in that they're focused on what things do, right, rather than what they look like. In that the majority of Hebrew verbs in the language, root words in the language are verbs, right? By and large, they're action words. Um, Thank you, Kiki and Dom. Appreciate that. Um, yeah, the majority of the base root words within the language of Hebrew are all things you do. It comes back to that. They have to do with how things function, the way that they name things. They give a word to describe things. It's based on how things function. Like the word for father, for example, is the same word for a tent support pole, like the center support or foundation of a tent. It's av or ab, we'd say, like in the Aramaic pronunciation, but av is the that whole concept of a father, the strength of the house, right? And so they work in the same way. Faza, my faza, my archetypally. Um, they function the same. They do the same thing, basically, you know. So that's how they think. It's not about what things look like, it's about what they do, right? So even today, a lot of um, Jewish thought is still based around, are you doing what we do? It's less concerned with like what the statement of faith is, what you believe. Yeah, there is that in there, but it's much more about, are you following our traditions? Are you following what we do? So we're in Christianity, much more often it's, the first focus is, are you in agreement mentally here with the creeds, that we have. That's all. Many denominations. That's some of the first questions I've been asked. Do you agree with our statement of faith? For this church. And behavior is important, but it's not as rigidly defined as it would be, say, within Judaism. A lot of times, it depends on the denomination, though. Some denominations get very, very specific on dress and appearance. So uh, at any rate, the difference between Hebraic and Greco-Roman thought, the Grecians were much more interested in form, in the way things were looked. Function is important, but the way that you function, the way you appear as you do it, is also important. And so, if you begin to get away from function more and more and more as being paramount, then you start to think, well, um, maybe the function of the reproductive process is not as important as how it appears. How we can think about that philosophically and take it down different roads and then justify in our minds um, old men and young boys. So yeah, pedophilia became an educational tool in their minds. Um, Yeah, they'd already. You're right, Steve. They'd already become Hellenized pretty well by that point. By the time he was on the scene, they'd been around Grecian culture so much that was already beginning to have an impact on them at that point. And so this is why the Pharisees different. There were over 7 different types of Pharisees in the first century. It's something I only learned within the last few years. Um, but yeah, different schools of thought within there, but they largely get them, kick you. Yes, it's very much in a lot of ways it could be summed up like the difference between works and grace, and it's kind of like they're not supposed to be separate. They're supposed to be two sides of the same coin, right? You don't overemphasize either. You just do what you should. You engage in relationship. You go forward with your heart in the right place, in the right posture, right? Um, but how would I say that? In the Hebrew sense of, what is it, in the first century, so they had not only the Torah, right, the written law of Moses, or the books of Moses in that way that were from God, but they had the oral Torah, right, the oral traditions, or what they would also call the Talmud writings, writings of rabbis over the centuries. And so this added so many different things on top of what was already in the Torah. And whenever Jesus had a problem with Pharisees or scribes and such, he was speaking to that, like, this is your tradition, right? They even said, why do you not follow the traditions of the elders and eat, with unwashed hands? And they're talking about, why haven't you splashed water 3 times, or some similar ritual that may have been in existence at that time, but a ceremonial washing, not like, why didn't you get yourself clean before you eat? Like, people would do that anyway, but they said, why don't you do the ritual thing first? And it's not scripture, man. It's not what God wrote. You added that. You're straining in an act to do the stuff that's not even in the book, stuff that you added to the book to make sure people didn't break the stuff in the book. It's like, let God deal with that and people. Like, oh, we got to regiment it. I don't always fault the mind of the Hebrew leaders, the Jewish leaders and stuff, as the more I read about that, because um, let's take an example of the speaking out loud of God's name, right? The pronunciation of the name, sometimes called the Tetragrammaton, or um, Yod He Vav He. I say Yova, the way I pronounce it. Doesn't mean I'm right. There's probably like 30 different ideas of how to pronounce Yod He Vav He, but I say Yehovah, right? Because there's no hard J sound in Hebrew. It's a Y, even though we write J in English. Um, but at any rate, so um, for a long time they wouldn't say it. It's written. It's notated in both the Leningrad Codex and the what is it now, the um, Aleppo Codex of the Old Testament scriptures. Ancient documents, transcriptions of this that have been around for some time. Um, the name of God is written out, even with like vowel markings included, over 800 different times. Probably, I think it's more than that. I'm probably understating it. It's a lot of times. I think it's in the thousands. I'd have to read my research on that again, but I know it's a lot of times. And when beautiful Lady Bear and I read, we come upon that. Anytime you see like capital Lord in an English Bible, you're likely coming up upon Yehovah. You're written out there, Yod He Vav He. So there was a period of time where they wouldn't say this, and there were a couple things that were in their mind. One, they would have people come upon them to persecute them at different periods throughout their history, and they would be forbidden to speak the name of God. It was actually a capital crime to speak out loud the name of God under Antiochus Epiphanes, the guy who precipitated the events of the Maccabean revolt, right, and the Hanukkah scenario. Um, but at other times, they had been forbidden to speak the name, or they chose not to because they didn't want the name profaned by people who um, were not servants of God. So the Jewish leaders at different times chose to make it a thing where they said, God's name is too holy to pronounce, so we won't even say it. We'll switch it out for Adonai, you know, um, or they'll say Hashem, in different situations. Hey, Vet, liked your videos. Gave you some likes on those yesterday. That's cool stuff, man. Um, Always enjoy your farm life, your urbanish farm life. It's so cool, dude. I love it. Um, I guess it wouldn't be urban, but suburban. At any rate, so um, where was I? Ones who could teach in the temple. Yes, that's true. And they came back to that. They created more of a leadership clergy kind of thing going on where they sort of obfuscated certain things um, from people, right? And one of them was the pronunciation of the name of God. They thought, well, let's not have people doing that because we don't want our enemies to get a hold of it and profane it. And so now it's even been a tradition where they won't even write the word God; they'll write G-D. They won't even put the O in there. And it's been a tradition out of reverence, but that's nowhere in the scriptures. That's been added, right? Oh, just got a text from my boss. Let me answer him real quick. I'll slide this over here so I can see. I'll slide this up so I can see my messaging app. Let's see. It's almost 6 here. Can't believe that. Almost 6. Let's see here. All right. Let me answer my boss here real quick. I'm down there now. About to go for a run. I'll be ready at 7. 20. Shoot for that. Cool. Excellent. Excellent. Great. So, just had to make sure he knew I was going to be where I needed to be. All right. At any rate, so let me finish up these thoughts. Chief's in here. Oh, you were talking to somebody else. Sorry, I was just looking back over the chat, man. You're talking to Vet Bear. Talking to the Navy Chief. That's right. I forgot Vet Bear was Navy. At any rate, so this whole bit about let's see here. I'm trying to think where I was at. The name of God, pronouncing that. So yeah, they added instructions of God. They made it a thing. You're not even supposed to pronounce the name of God, and that was a tradition that they've added, right? And that adding to stuff that had already been said made it more obfuscated to the people. And there's actually a great joy in being able to say God's name out loud. Like, I enjoy doing that. I enjoy calling Jesus Yeshua, like his mom probably would have. And I don't know that I'm pronouncing it the same way that they would have. I can't know that unless I have a tape recording, or I can meet somebody from that time period and know how they spoke. So there's all sorts of factors that I'll never know for sure, but it's kind of like being able to be that much more familiar with somebody who said, "Please call me by my name." Do that. And God told them, "This is my name." Tell them, "I am has sent you." Right? Like, he who was, who is, and whoever shall be. That's what Yehovah means. It's a contraction of those three phrases. Those three terms can put into a name. And then Yeshua is a contracted form of Yehovah Shua, right? God saves, essentially, is what that comes down to. Oh man, there's actually a deeper bit on the name, but I won't dig into it right now. As the name of God is very profound, very, very profound. One of these days I'll have to talk about the letters and the meaning of each letter. And the more I understand things from the perspective of knowing the ancient Hebrew characters and such, that it just makes things come more alive to me. But a yod, a hey, a vav, and a hey. Dig into that a little bit. You might find some interesting things. So there's a lot of gobbledygook out there too. Don't get it twisted. But Jeff Benner's materials are definitely worthwhile. I'd highly recommend Brad's stuff. Brad's a funny dude. Brad Scott has a great thing on the Aleph Bet. You go to wildbranch.org, and he's got an interesting ministry that he's had going for many years. And maybe we wouldn't agree on everything, but we'd probably agree on a lot. And he's just been a really, really kind man to share resources with me over the years and point me in the right directions. Yeah, his whole series on the Aleph Bet, it's worth giving a listen to. Brad Scott, the Aleph Bet. I always interpreted "I am" that I am as a statement rather than a name or title. And the meaning is, you can't handle my name because your head will explode. I think there's an aspect of that in there. But then I think there's also an aspect of the bigger point is that we tend to, of what I was saying that anyway, was that we tend to look at things through our lenses, right? And hey, dude, Good to see you, Vet Bear. Tyler, glad you could stop in for a little bit. I'm about to close it up anyway, so I've got to get some things. It's a shorter stream today. Internet's not always my friend here, so I gotta budget my time to get everything done that I need to. But yeah, just trying to think what my train of thought was there because I lose it easily. Um, I was saying that it's so great to be on the spot constantly. Yes, yes, that is exactly right. But it was like I want to say goodbye to somebody, squirrel, which is a worthwhile one. Those are important. Sometimes I wish I could take the stream and look at it on the laptop while I'm filming it from the phone, then backtrack a little bit to see what did I just say. Um, so I was talking about. Oh, don't forget to get yourself a cool shirt, pink for the ladies. That's right. Mad guy enda. Hey, Mr. Nicktown. Good to see you in here. I always show up right on time to see it end and verbally. Oh, dude, you're so funny, man. That's a trip and a half. I love it. Yeah, hey, if nothing else, tell your friends about the Mad guy enda shirts. Make drumming great again and again and again. And always do your vest, right? I never wear a vest on these streams, but I do when I'm playing with other groups. Every show I play, I try to wear my vest. It's kind of a thing that I enjoy. So that's what that's about. Um, so, so yeah, Mr. Nicktown, share the link. If nothing else, just share the link for the t-shirts, and that'll help. We're trying to get to at a minimum 11 shirts sold. We're down to 2, or we're up to 2 so far, rather. 2 we've sold. And yeah, if you can't buy, share. That's all I ask, man. I'm more than happy to see that happen. Support the stream. But back to my train of thought about this. So the bigger point about sharing about this difference between Greek and Hebrew thought is the way that we look at stuff, right? And the more that we try to put ourselves back in the mindset of the people who penned it in the first place, the more likely we are to get the fullness of meaning out of it, right? Get more of a full understanding of what the penners of it were attempting to communicate. So if you can continue to try and put yourself back in that mindset when you're interpreting things, you're gonna get rich rewards back out of what you come to understand, and it's going to impact your life even more deeply. But back to the original subject that we were on, which was kind of the greater acceptance of pedos and pedo behavior. The idea that people could find that to be acceptable, just looking at how the world is set up, how day-to-day life goes, and somehow figure out that this is a way that we can educate young men. We can teach them the ropes, so to speak, and help them along in their lives by mentoring them through this process. And I'm starting to sound like George Takei as I say that, and it wouldn't shock me if he was also amongst that group. But I don't know. Well, my point is to say that people have been able to twist meanings of the past, and I'm reading what you said, Kick, yeah. Yeah, I have no doubt in it. I'm fairly confident. Um, People take things of the past and twist them with the wrong thinking about it, not looking at it from the perspective of the people that were chosen to pen it, and they can come up with all kinds of crud. Um, so yeah, it's worth thinking about. Like, how can I look at not just say the Bible, but how can I look at life every day as like what the obvious interpretation is of what's in front of me. Men and women seem to have complementary body parts. It seems to be that the vast majority of the time, when they engage in relationship, they produce children. Maybe that's what we ought to be doing. Oh, you know what? Like almost all the animals in the world tend to do the same thing. Yes, are there those that can spontaneously switch, in terms of what genitalia they have? Yes, but they already had DNA in them to do that. We don't, right? So it's not a function of how we operate. Um, and it's also possible that maybe we don't fully understand those creatures yet. People that jump to say, "Oh, well, some fish just changed sex all of a sudden," um, and there are some asexual creatures out there that just self-reproduce. Yes, I think that's certainly true. Yes, the gay frogs. um, let me look back here. You have a question for anyone? Go for it. Why do men seem to be more prone to being that than? Uh, yeah, that's an interesting thought. Why are men more prone to pedo behavior than women? Um, I think that testosterone probably does play a part in it. Uh, hmm. Well, hmm. That's odd to think about. Yeah, I mean, let's see what else you're saying here. Well, yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that might be connected to it. Young men never complain. No excuse for no, 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 no. Absolutely, cut it off. I think women are. Yes, that's true. That's true. Wow. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that part. Wow. Yeah, that's true. There are a lot of female teachers that are in that boat. You know, um, I think that that's probably a big factor. What would be interesting is to see if there's literature on this. I'd love to post that to Owen. Like, Owen, the next time you sit down with Doc Peterson, ask him about this. Or maybe a bunch of us can like get together and send something to Doc Peterson. I suspect we'll have a better chance of reaching because I know that guy is massively busy, but I suspect we'll probably have a better chance of getting our answer if we go through Owen, and petition him as bears to say the next time you sit down with Doc Peterson, could you please ask him about what are the factors that you're aware of that might motivate this type of thing? Of what is known about the whole pedo thing and the motivation for it, maybe more so in men than in women, if that's the case. Hey, Shade, welcome. I'm sorry you just got here, like right at the end. What was the Garth Brooks song about that? I might have to check that one out. That's interesting. Huh. Man, some don't have a limit. Yeah, yeah. You know, um, there is there's a Kiki. I was just looking at one of the last things you said. There is a Christian apologist named Ravi Zacharias, and he's originally from India. He's an interesting character, very interesting guy. Moved to Canada in his earlier was it early adult years. Um, no, I know you're not at all, Kiki. Didn't get that from me at all. No, yeah, I know you're just talking about how much you despise this stuff. It's insipid. It's really really gross, and the idea that it's creeping ever further forward is really disturbing. Um, let's see here. Ravi Zacharias was speaking about this, and he said um, his daughter was involved in an organization that would rescue children from human trafficking and such throughout um, different third world countries or the different other nations around the world. And he recounted a situation where his daughter was part of the group that went in to rescue, like an infant, from like I guess there was some bar in Indonesia or in the Philippines, I can't remember which, where you go in this back bar or whatever, and the patrons that come in, they're fairly wealthy. They pay a lot of money for this, and they're given this concoction of like some sort of alcohol and rattlesnake venom, and it does insane things to them. Um, Makes them just crazy, and they're supposed to be given whatever they desire in that moment. And very often they call for being able to plunder um, a child, in some way. And the child was in the hands of a man that was in this state. And thankfully, that organization broke in and stopped it before it went anywhere, saved that kid from the clutches of this guy about to do this stuff. But if that group saved at least that kid and probably plenty of others, that means there's plenty of others out there that still fall victim to that stuff. And so what Doc Peterson says about this over and over again hits home once more. Most people throughout most of the history of the world experience horrendousness every day, and still today are having that. Um, and so, um, what we ought to be asking ourselves is not why is there so much, depravity and sorrow in the world, but why is there any affluence? Why is there any happiness? That's kind of an amazing thing, and to be so thankful for it when we see it, and to see more of it. What should you do about that suffering? What should you do about that suffering? Try to reduce it. Do by Dr. Peterson for you. That wasn't quite so good. It's not how I normally get it. Gosh, they're just a miserable mess. E? Yeah, I had to throw an A in there to make it right. Well, that's my closing thought for today. Try to seek out proper thinking. Set yourself on a path where your mind thinks more clearly about how things are intended to function. Gosh, I haven't slept for 25 days. I'm just eating nothing but meat. Maybe I'll have mushrooms next month. We'll see. Maybe I can eat that. Hey, medium-sized drum bear. Hey, Homemade, I just noticed you don't have a wrench. Homemade needs a wrench. We have to fix that. Add moderator. Homemade, welcome to moderating. Welcome to Wrench Life. No wrench jealousy in here. We don't have that. Do you have it? I don't see it on you. Homemade, say hey one more time. I want to see if you got your wrench. I need to see if Homemade got squared away. Because I don't see it. Cool, man. Yeah, I'm doing it at the chat, not at the actual lens. I love it when I do that. It's so funny. So closing thought: seek out to think properly. Seek out to be able to think about function rather than form, because function is what makes life happen, right? Form is great at times, but it's the icing, and it doesn't have to be perfect. You couldn't possibly get it perfect because we don't necessarily know what the proper form is, but we certainly know what the proper function of things are. That's obvious. Oh man. And be grateful. Be grateful every day that things function at all. That there's some degree of meaning in your life, and seek out to reduce the suffering for yourself and others as much as you can. I know Brad Scott usually has his sign off to a lot of things that I've always appreciated. It's like, how does he put that? How does he say? It's been so long since I watched a good Brad video, which is so sad. I need to watch some Brad stuff again. But
I didn't see your text after I woke up and like text.
Is it be?
No, it's like I just texted.
Your date, something or other. Be.
So,
I can't remember. I'm gonna have to look that up. But it was something to the effect of Be well or do well, that your days may be long, and that you will prosper in all that you set your hand to do. Um, uh, yeah, I think it's do well, but I could be wrong about that. Um, but yeah, once I figure that out, I'm going to put that in the description. And I'm going to put that as a Brad Scott quote, attribute it to him. I do need to sign off. I usually say peace bears. That's kind of my thing, but it's not as insightful. So, you know what? In the comment section, I want you guys to share this video today in the bear chats, in the hangouts, whatever you want to do. And the numero uno thing, put a comment with that to say, or put a caption with it to say, help BDB come up with a sign-off slogan. I want suggestions for that. Put it in the comments for the video. Send me emails, send me messages, wherever you want. Maybe I'll even put an Instagram post up and say, I need you to sign off for this. What do you guys think would be a good sign off for me? And I may not take anybody's specific one. I may take amalgamations of different ones, but it's going to be a good one. However I end up, something that you guys think fits me. So I'd love to hear your ideas, what you think my sign off ought to be, and we'll definitely see how that turns out. But for now, bum. Oh my gosh, Mayor, you're killing me, bro. That's a great one though. I love you, Bears. Thanks so much for coming out here. Live musically, live loud, and always appreciate you guys being here. Now I have to have my snare. It's back in Illinois. At any rate, I love you guys. Peace, Bears.